Welcome to task 1.2. We are actually not going to do pages 9, 10, or 11. We are going to start on page 12 in your packet where it says finding important information in a word problem. And we're going to fill in what the starting term number is. And we're going to use a question. The starting term number answers the question, when does the scenario start? So once we read our word problem below number 4, we'll go back and we'll ask that question to ourselves. But I'll give it examples. Maybe it's labeled initially. Maybe it's labeled first minute. Those are just some examples. So we'll definitely come back to this. Starting value. That answers the question, what is the starting amount? So we will go back to this when we get to the word problem below. And the pattern will answer the question, how is it changing? So in other words, what's going to be what we defined in task 1.1 as the common difference if it's an arithmetic sequence, or the common ratio if it is a geometric sequence. So let's look at number 4. Samantha's practicing for a recital. On the first night, she practices for 5 minutes. On the second night, she practices for 15 minutes. On the third night, she practices for 25 minutes. And on the sixth night, she practices for 25 minutes. I am going to highlight starting term number in yellow. I am going to highlight starting value in pink. And I am going to highlight pattern in green. And we know once we have our pattern, that leads to, is this sequence arithmetic or geometric? And therefore, does it have a common difference or common ratio? So let's begin with starting term number. Remember, it asks the question, when does the scenario start? Well, this says she's practicing. She practices on the first night, on the second night, on the third night, on the sixth night. So when is the scenario starting? It is starting on the very first night. So the starting term number would be 1, but like section or task 1.1, because I have the units, I'm going to label it. So 1 night. Starting value was in pink, and it answered the question, what is the starting amount? Well, on the first night, what did she have? What would she start with? She's practiced for 5 minutes. So the starting amounts would be 5, and the units are there, so I will label them minutes. And last but not least, the pattern. So how is this changing? Well, she goes from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to 25 minutes. So let's see here. It sounds to me like from 5 to 15 to 25 is a pattern of adding 10. So I would say that she adds by 10 each time. And if you wanted to be very specific, it's not even each time, it's each night, because we have this label. But I'll say adds by 10 each time. So is this arithmetic or geometric? Well, when you're adding or subtracting, you have an arithmetic sequence, and that is associated with a common difference. And remember, the common difference from task 1.1 is the number that is being added or subtracted each time. And our number was right here as plus 10. And we're done with number 4. Number 5, once again, I am going to have the starting term number in yellow, the starting value in pink. Oopsie. And it looks like my pattern is in green. And again, once you describe the pattern, you know if it's arithmetic or geometric sequence, and you know if you have a common difference or common ratio. So what is my starting term number? Once again, it answers the question, when does the scenario start? So let's read what's happening in number 5. A basketball bounces off the rim of a basket that's 10 feet high. So if we draw the basket, it's right up here. There's the hoop right there. And there's the 10 feet. From the ground up to the top of the hoop. So from here to here is 10 feet. Now on the first bounce, it goes 5 feet high. So if this is the ball right here, on the very first bounce, it goes down, hits the ground. It doesn't come back all the way to 10 feet. It only maybe comes to 5 feet. So right here is 5 feet. And on the second bounce, it hits the ground and it comes back up, but not as high. Now it's only 2.5 feet or 2.5 feet, and so on. So that's the situation that's happening. I think I can already label from 10 to 5. Let me use green. I divide by 2. From 5 to 2.5, I divide by 2. So I'm already seeing the pattern to me looks like it's dividing by 2. But let's talk about all the information. So the starting term, do not forget from up above, answers the question, when does the scenario start? Well, it looks to me like it starts at the very top, right here. And we're talking about bounces. So at the very top, has the basketball bounced at all? No, you've just shot it. There's no bouncing that happens when you've just shot. So we're going to call that 0 bounces. And again, the starting term number is 0, but I might as well use the units and label it since I've got it. The starting value in purple answers the question, what is the starting amount? Well, what is the starting amount? Here's my purple. It looks like the starting amount when the basketball goes off the rim is 10 feet. So starting value is 10. I've got my labels of feet. Now the pattern. The pattern was in green. We already figured it out. We were dividing by 2 each time. So I will say dividing by 2 each time or each bounce. And we know from task 1.1 that if you are multiplying or if you are dividing for your pattern, this is called a geometric sequence. And it has a common ratio. Now we are not going to write the common ratio as dividing by 2. Ratio means a fraction. And we're going to use multiplication. So for those of you who are already aware, dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, or 1 over 2. So dividing by 2 is really dividing by 2 over 1. And the reciprocal means you flip the numerator and the denominator. And you change the dividing to multiplication. So we still have a geometric sequence because the pattern is dividing by 2 each time, or the way we're going to say it It is multiplying by the reciprocal 1/2 each time. It's still a geometric sequence because multiplying or dividing is geometric, and I will say the common ratio is multiplying by 1/2. And that's it for task 1.2. Thank you very much.